What happens after your last breath? Does the self dissolve into the void, or does the soul pass through portals? A transition, a transformation, a state of consciousness beyond human understanding. Soul Wanderer, welcome to the depths of mysteries. Today I will tell you about one of the most profound and enigmatic texts of Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo Thodol, more widely known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The Bardo Thodol is not merely a simple guide to the end of life. It is a map, a guidebook that delves into the depths of the process after death. It provides insights into the paths the soul will traverse, the portals it will pass through, and what it may ultimately reach after the greatest transition of our lives. This guide is intended not only for the living, but also for the souls of the dead, offering a path to liberation even after the final breath. Behind this vital text of Tibetan Buddhism is Padmasambhava, a great mystic and the figure who brought Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. Padmasambhava, who also founded Tibet's first monastery, was a yogi and spiritual master with profound knowledge. He aimed to guide not only the living, but also souls at the moment of death. He discovered that the soul could transcend beyond the material body to higher levels of consciousness, even at the threshold of death, reaching immortality and enlightenment. Padmasambhava's teachings emphasize that death is not an end, but a transition. This transition is a critical moment for the mind and consciousness. However, many people, unprepared for this high state of consciousness, lose themselves in fear and illusions after death. This is why the Bardo Thodol provides profound guidance for those with heightened spiritual awareness. The Bardo Thodol describes 3 primary stages the soul goes through after death: Chikai Bardo, Chonyit Bardo, and Sidpa Bardo. In the first stage, Chikai Bardo, the moment of death becomes a real experience. The soul separates from the physical body and moves toward a clear light. This light represents the pure consciousness inherent in all beings. If the soul recognizes this clear light, it can immediately achieve liberation. However, this is not something everyone can attain. An unprepared soul may perceive the light as a threat and retreat, moving into the subsequent stages. The next stage, Chonyid Bardo, is where the soul experiences projections of its karmic imprints and emotional states accumulated over its lifetime. These projections can manifest as either peaceful or wrathful visions. Through these visions, the soul confronts its fears and desires. According to the Bardo Thodol, understanding these visions for what they are, reflections of the mind itself, is key to progressing through this stage toward liberation. Finally, Sidpa Bardo is the stage of rebirth. This is one of the most critical moments. Here, the soul reaps the results of the energies and actions it accumulated in life. These karmic imprints compel the soul to choose its next body. Although this choice is not a conscious one, the body becomes a vessel for the soul to resolve its karmic conditions. However, rebirth is not inevitable. The Bardo Thodol provides spiritual practitioners with the tools to achieve awareness of the mind's nature and free themselves from illusions during this stage. This text highlights the interconnectedness of life and death. Every choice, thought, and action shapes the soul's journey. Each death presents an opportunity for rebirth, but this opportunity can only be realized through understanding and awareness. According to Tibetan Buddhism, every rebirth is a chance for learning and growth. Yet we often remain trapped in the same karmic cycles without realizing it. Breaking free from this cycle requires not only preparation for death, but also spiritual practices throughout life. Understanding the nature of the mind, freeing ourselves from fears and attachments, are keys to spiritual enlightenment. Lastly, the Bardo Thodol teaches us that death is merely a passage. True death is not the physical end in this world, but the moment when the soul encounters its immortality. The earlier we grasp this, the more awareness and enlightenment we can achieve. To embrace the Bardo Thodol as a spiritual guide is to understand how deeply life and death are intertwined. With this understanding, we can accept our fears, desires, and the true nature of death. This process is not merely a moment of death. It is also a rebirth, a transformation, and ultimately, enlightenment. Death is a transition, but how prepared are we faced to understand the boundaries of that transition? Guided by the Bardo Thodol, we continue to delve into the secrets of this profound journey. Today, inspired by the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, we'll take a closer look at the states of consciousness after death and the effects of the karmic cycle. According to Tibetan teachings, the moment of death is like the opening of a door. But passing through that door depends on the soul's level of awareness. So how can this awareness be increased? Tibetan Buddhism offers a deep philosophy of meditation and conscious living. Striving to understand the nature of death before dying can ease the soul's passage through the bardos. This is the key not only to the afterlife, but also to profound inner transformation during life itself. As we dive deeper into the Bardo Thodol, we see how each bardo shapes the experiences of the soul. In our previous journey, we spoke about the effects of the clear light and projections on the soul. However, between these stages lie much subtler details. For instance, the first moment, when the soul confronts the clear light, is actually an opportunity. This opportunity reflects every thought and action taken during life. If the soul has developed awareness during its lifetime, it won't perceive the light as a threat and can embrace it. At that moment, enlightenment becomes possible. But what if the soul isn't ready? This is where the major opportunity arises, the visions. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that these visions appear in two main forms, peaceful and wrathful. Peaceful visions are manifestations of the positive karma cultivated throughout life. Wrathful visions, on the other hand, reflect fears, attachments, and unresolved traumas. Interestingly, both types of visions are actually the same thing, reflections of the mind's nature. At this stage, the more accurately the soul understands these visions, the easier its journey becomes. These visions are not external realities. They are mirrors of the soul's inner world. If the soul learns to use this mirror correctly, it can transition to the third stage, the cycle of rebirth, with greater awareness. When the soul reaches the stage of rebirth, it's time to choose. But this choice is not a matter of free will. Rather, it is a process driven by the karma and desires accumulated during life. For example, if someone couldn't control their fears and desires during life, this may restrict the soul during rebirth. Conversely, a person who developed mental clarity and awareness in life can guide their soul more freely. So is it possible to break this cycle? According to Tibetan Buddhist teachings, yes, it is. But this can only be achieved through practices carried out, not just at the moment of death, but throughout life. Practices like meditation, cultivating mindfulness, and letting go of emotional attachments can help the soul break free from this cycle. The journey that begins after death is not just an end but also a beginning. And this beginning depends on how prepared the soul is. Tibetan mystics emphasize the importance of preparing for this at every moment of life, because death is not just a single moment. It is life's greatest teacher. And now, I leave you with a question. What kind of journey would you want after death? A transition filled with fears and illusions, or a path illuminated by clear awareness? The answer lies in every choice you make in your life.